Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to be walking you through the process of creating a radar graph, was what Google Sheets calls it. We're going to call it a polar graph. A polar graph, which is going to help you lay out your CAM design. This is a way of doing this all in the computer. I do want to point out that you can do this by hand. As we showed in a previous video, or I showed you during online training, what we're doing here with the polar graph is we're graphing out along the edges. You can see that I've marked 0 degrees, 45 degrees, 90, so on and so forth. So that will stand for my rotation. And then the rungs here, these individual circles that we see right here. Oh, I forget that I'm in picture mode, so I can't draw on it, but these rungs here that we see, these black lines, all stand for increments. Those are those distances that we have on the data table that deal with the data that we had for the motion graph. So what that is how far are we, what's our vertical displacement at any given time. So 0 degrees here, we're calling this 1.250, and then you can see that it grows all the way out till we get to 2.375. So each one of these major rungs stands for 1.25, excuse me, an eighth of an inch. We can see here that this is the eccentric cam that we're starting to get. So the question is, how do you do it with Google Sheets? It's actually pretty simple to create this. So I'm going to go over here. You can see my two finished products here. I'm going to go over here to sheet 2 where I just have the data table, and I'll show you how to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight then again the data that I want to draw this time. A couple of differences between drawing the motion graph and drawing this radar graph. Number one, you'll notice I'm only choosing the left cam. I am choosing the titles, but I'm only choosing the left cam and the angle of rotation. Number two, the other big difference is I'm not going to grab that 360-degree point because Google Sheets does not realize that 360 degrees and 0 degrees are really the same thing. So I'm just going to stop at 315. And so I'm going to have these 8 different markings here. I'm going to come up and I'm going to choose Insert Chart. Now, it wants to put in a column chart, but that's not what we want. We want a radar chart. So we're just going to simply come over here to Chart Type. I'm going to click the drop down, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you're going to see it in the other charts. It's a radar chart right here. Now, that's not what it's supposed to look like. You may say, that's all right. What we're going to do in the rest of this video is just change the formatting and get it to look like it's supposed to look like. We're going to start with a couple of things here. First of all, I'm going to go to Customize. And I'm going to go down here to, say, Series. And I'm going to change this so that there are points at the important data points along my graph. I'm going to use a 4-pixel dot. So now I can see there's dots. These dots correspond to then the vertical displacement at any angle of rotation. Next thing, the legend. Because there's only one thing being graphed here, and it says very clearly up in the title that it's the left cam, I feel like it's kind of repetitive to say left cam here and left cam here. You know, it's all over the place. So in this case, I don't think we need a legend. For the vertical axis, and this is the big change, we want to make sure that the minimum is 0. And for increments sake, because I've gone through and I've done this before, I'm going to go ahead and just say 2.500 is the maximum. And the reason I'm going to do that is because that's going to at least give me nice neat numbers as I go out here. So each rung you see here is a 1/2 inch in size. I'm not going to change anything else. You can go and mess with grid lines if you want to, but I think that it looks pretty nice and neat. We can see that we have that eccentric cam that we drew by hand. We now have it in Google Sheets in just a couple of clicks. I mean, that's really simple. Now, let me walk you through this other one. A little bit more difficult if you're not real comfortable with Excel or Google Sheets. I do need to graph the right cam. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to highlight 0 to 315. Notice I grabbed the title. And the trick to highlighting the orange one at the same time is to hold down the Control key. So if I hold down Control, I'm able to drag and highlight a non-congruent cell, so something that's not right next to it. Now that I have these two columns, I'm going to go through the same process. Insert a chart. Don't want a column chart. I want a radar chart. Scroll all the way down and insert it. That looks really weird, but don't panic. We're going to go through the same steps here. We're going to customize. We're going to go to our series. We're going to change the pixels so we have a 4-pixel dot. We're going to go to legend and remove the legend because it's redundant. And in the magic, the vertical axis, we're going to force it to start at 0 and all the way up to 2.5. Now we can see we have an oval, we have an elliptical cam is what this ends up being. So this goes up and down twice. The sides that are closer right here at 90 and 270, it's a little bit less displacement. And at the top and the bottom, it's a little bit more displacement. So this thing is going to go up and down twice in a smooth motion every single time you crank it. So there you go. There's two motion graphs being transferred and creating polar graphs out of them in just a couple of clicks. Hopefully that makes sense. If you got any questions, do not hesitate to let me know.